Alrighty, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're sharing out the bright points in a pandemic, how we worked in partnership with our colleagues at Denver Public Schools. My name is Michelle Pacheco. I'm the Associate Dean of Concurrent Enrollment at Community College of Aurora. Pete and Tara, are you there?
Yep, Pete Sarda from the Concurrent Enrollment Manager in DPS.
I'm Tara Schneider. I'm our Advanced Pathways Program Manager for Denver Public Schools.
So we decided to do a little bit of an icebreaker. Marty, this is your cue. And so we're going to go into breakout sessions with just a few folks in each room and talk about what's my decade. If you could choose any decade in which you could choose to live, why? So I'll tell you mine, of course. I grew up in the 90s, so of course I would love to be in the 90s. I think about stonewashed jeans, I think about Saved by the Bell, I think about NSYNC, maybe that's 2000. So we're gonna break into small groups for a minute, get folks kind of warmed up. If you could introduce yourselves, share the decade you would choose to live in and why, and then we'll come back in just about 3 to 4 minutes.
Do we have everybody back?
I think we're pretty close, yeah.
So again, my name is Tara Schneider. I work for Denver Public Schools in our Higher Education Initiatives Office. And our overall DPS vision is that every child succeeds. And we have Superintendent Susanna Cordova, and her mission underneath of that is that every single one of our students thrives not by accident, but by design. So we've taken that to heart as a Higher Education Initiatives team. And how do we organize our work so that our students are accessing college and career options by design and not by accident in Denver Public Schools.
And so I won't read to you, but some fast facts if you're not familiar with Community College of Aurora.
And this is the Higher Ed Initiatives team that Tara just mentioned in Denver Public Schools, the folks that we have on our team. So you can see I manage concurrent enrollment. We also have an Ascent manager with a coordinator under her. And there's two concurrent enrollment liaisons that work under me and Tara as well as part of the program pathways, advanced program pathways. And we also have 6 new grant funded positions, which are called regional specialists that work directly with our schools around college and career opportunities across our entire department. So everything from Ascent, AccuPlacer, CLEP, concurrent enrollment, Career Connect, and work-based learning and school-based learning programs. We also have early colleges in there as well. So Tara's just to talk really quickly about our goals as an organization.
Some of our goals as we think about ourselves as a higher education initiatives team and doing our work by design rather than by accident is that we work intentionally to increase options for our underrepresented students to access college and career options while they're in high school, to expand high interest options for our students, encourage more matriculation to post-secondary institutions, 4-year, 2-year career and technical ed programs. And then how can we help alleviate the cost of attendance at the post-secondary options? And then of course, expose them to the rigors of these types of programs in high school in that safe, supportive environment before they transition over fully to post-secondary. And then how do we increase awareness for all of our students, families, and community about all of these college and high school options that we have in Denver Public Schools?
This next slide is really just going to kind of give you an overview of what concurrent enrollment and dual enrollment look like in Denver Public Schools. So over the past 6 years, we've seen increased enrollment, so about 1,400 additional unique students each year take concurrent enrollment. So about roughly 20% of our population in DPS take at least one concurrent enrollment class throughout their 4 years. Now you also see the number of courses that are taken by those students in the column that says CE courses taken has certainly nearly doubled in the past 6 years as well, while our pass rates have risen and remain consistent at around 85, 86%. In Denver Public Schools, we've increased the number of partnerships over that time as well. We work very closely with around 9 college partners currently, and continue to build that out and have some more partnerships as well. Yeah, and I think Michelle is gonna kind of jump in really quick. Oh, I just wanted to throw out, we're also expanding the types of programming that we do. So we send students to the college campus. We have students take classes at our high school. And we've also been expanding into a virtual hybrid prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, where we're utilizing college staff to teach courses where we may not have adjunct faculty, and the courses are asynchronous and synchronous. And we'll dive into those a little bit more in detail. You can go to the next slide, Michelle.
And so similarly, when we talk about, I know staffing patterns are so important. Everybody wants to know what each other's staffing patterns look like. So you can see this is our team, all the folks at CCA and Concurrent Enrollment who do the great work to support students. And then here's an enrollment overview of the college overall. In addition to Aurora Public Schools, Cherry Creek School District, and Denver Public Schools, we certainly serve quite a few other schools, charter schools, and the like, for students coming onto campus, offering classes on their campuses as well. And here's an idea of what our concurrent enrollment looks like. So you can see from both charts, this is just for fall. I didn't pull the one for spring, but you can see the growth that we've had in terms of head count, in terms of FTE in the last 5, really since fall 2013.
All right, so really getting into the meat and potatoes here of the presentation. You can go to the next slide there. It's really like our transition into online processes. So like most folks across the world, when everything came to a halt in March, is how are we going to do this and how are we going to move forward? So the biggest thing that we really focused on in DPS and with our college partners like CCA in particular was communication. In a time of uncertainty where nobody knows what's going to happen next, we felt that most of our schools needed information that we did not have, and information that was changing rapidly, sometimes by the hour. And so what we decided to do is just hold some weekly office hours where our staff in our department were available for an hour on Tuesday and Thursday during the school day. So school staff would come in and ask any questions that they wanted, anything that they needed. And these were really highly attended during our March, April, and May office hours. Obviously over the summer we didn't hold them, but we started back up when school started around August, and we still continue them now. We've cut them down to 1 hour each week, but we still find that they are well attended around certain times of the school year. And they've been very highly effective. The second focus we had was really with our district and college partners. Our college partners, like Michelle. So we decided to hold a weekly meeting with CCA, where every week we sat down and we talked about what were the things that we needed to discuss. You'll notice it says /daily meeting. There were times when we met with Michelle on a Thursday, and next morning we woke up to new information from from either CDE or the Colorado Department of Health, where everything we just told everybody or decided upon in our meeting the day before had changed. So we had to pivot and change with it. And Michelle, did you want to jump in and talk a little bit about our meetings together as a team?
Absolutely, Pete. I mean, I'd really echo what you just said, and we really had to examine things, and we started to meet a lot. And that communication piece, like any relationship, was key because things are ever changing, as we know. But we really took it as an opportunity to examine all of our processes on the college side, hear the needs of students as things were rapidly changing, not just in terms of college, but in terms of home life, right? So when we think about technology, when we think about students that are becoming, the sole provider in their home, when we think about homes where the majority of folks are undocumented and school is now not a priority, or is not the first priority of students, really looking at what we could do to support students, support the district, and help folks to be successful. And it didn't come without a wealth of communication, talking things out over and over and over again. And if we all think back to spring, when we had withdrawals shifted all the way to the last day of the semester, the S, the U, all those different processes that we had in spring, we really had to think really hard about what that looked like for folks and how to make that most accessible for the districts.
One other thing that we did, you'll see there, the second source of resource guide, is we found we were sending the same emails over and over and over. And I mentioned we had, we're talking particularly around our partnership with Community College of Aurora, but we have partnerships with 9 schools where we're offering their courses in our high schools. And we work with roughly anywhere from 12 to 15 other different college programs. So one place we found was to use Google Sheets and have a different tab for each school and to update all the information. And this link here is something we continued into this fall as well. So schools can go there, they can see all the information. We still update it daily, and there's also a page with specific resources. So for example, if there are any technical resources that we need to provide to the district, again, when I say it's distributed widely, updated daily, and referred to often through emails and calls and through our office hours, that's what we did. I can't tell you how many times our staff said, hey, did you check the resource guide? Or, hey, that information's in the resource guide. So having a place where schools could go and get live kind of real-time information as we updated it. And I mentioned working with Michelle, but we also sat down and had meetings with most of our college partners on a weekly to bi-weekly basis throughout the spring pandemic. And it's slowed down a little bit in terms of how often we do meet now, because I think we've kind of got things under control for the most part. But then again, health guidance is changing. Our world is rapidly changing as things start to shut down and close down now. So I have a feeling like this is going to be even more important, again, to continue to meet with all of our college partners, making sure our schools and students have the information that they do need, and to make sure that we're continually updating our resources that are listed here. One of the next things that we did is that Michelle mentioned, since withdrawals were extended to the end of the school year, we normally had students fill out paper forms, and most of our college partners were the same. This was a problem, because mostly all of our students don't have access to printers, ink or paper, to then have something that they could sign and send back to the college. So we sat down and met with every one of our college partners and discussed a possible drop withdrawal form, where we utilized Google Forms. So we added all the information, and you'll have access to this presentation at the end. You can click on this form and it'll take you to ours. I ask you to please not fill it out, because what happens is once that is filled out, we have a student selects their college that they're or student meets with their high school counselor first. After meeting with the counselor, they decide that the withdrawal is the best option for them. They complete this withdrawal. The counselor completes this withdrawal form for the student, and then that withdrawal form then has a few things happening, I guess, under the hood there with Google Apps Script. So once the form is submitted, it goes to another Google Sheet that we maintain of all of our college partners. It grabs the correct college partner, their email. It also goes to the same sheet and grabs all of the high school contacts, the high school counselors that the student attends, and it puts them all in an email, and it copies our staff on that email as well. So everybody gets one email. The college partners, the student is copied on there, as well as high school staff and our district staff, so that nobody's out of the loop during this time. I mean, sure we do, and Michelle and some of our other partners on the line can probably attest to this. They probably get a lot of these emails at certain times throughout the year, especially right around the withdrawal date. But it's important for us that everybody's in the loop. And what we asked each of our college partners to do as well is, once they completed the actual withdrawal, was to reply reply all that this was completed. And this has been honestly a truly effective method for all of us to make sure that we're all in the loop, especially when questions do arise from either incomplete information that's added into the form. We found that a few students weren't registered in courses where, you know, they were asking to be withdrawn from. So again, it helped all of us really stay, again, in communication with everybody during this time when everybody was scattered across the city.
And Pete, if I could interject for just a minute, on the college side, this was a process. I mean, I think this process alone was what kind of made us feel so inclined to present. It was such a great idea, and it's something that we look at and will continue even after the pandemic, just because of what Pete mentioned. On the college side, we received the email, so we don't have access to the Google Apps or anything like that. We don't have to utilize that. It comes to 1 or 2 people on our team so that nobody misses it. The other nice thing that I know folks would appreciate is that I don't think it can move forward, the form. I don't think you can move forward without including the S number. So it makes it really nice. It's an easy way to document. We won't ever go back to scanning these documents again and putting them into BDM and the like. It was really one of the greatest things. And I would add, once we and Pete and Tara implemented this, our other district partners, or other large district partners rather, implemented this process as well. One of them, in fact, actually implemented it for registration for folks that are getting registered now for the spring semester. So it's been a really effective tool that essentially costs nothing, just Pete's expertise. And he's been so kind to share this information out with our other district partners and meet with them and just show them how to create these forms so that they come to us successfully.
One of the other things to point out here is Michelle adopted, I'm sorry, not Michelle, CCA adopted for students, because we didn't have entry to most assessments at that point, to see whether students were qualified based on prerequisites for courses. They adopted the self-assessment survey. So the students, and you can have those links there, I think it was adopted from Community College of Denver, where students would be able to self-assess their skills in English and math, take that information, sit down with their high school counselor, and talk through and determine which course, either English 121, whether there's a CCR 092 class, or English 121 with the co-requisite lab, would be the best course for students to take in the absence of having prerequisite measures. Now, the same thing happens for math as well. Students, again, fill out this self-assessment survey, and this was really intended to be a sit-down process in person. But we decided, since we can't sit down and do that, and asking our high school counselors who are already taxed as it is, especially during this time, to meet with every student that wanted to take an English or math course, we cut this time down in half by having the students complete the survey on their own. Students would get a copy of the result. Every counselor at the building is copied on that same self-assessment survey. And then whoever at the, and our staff, I think, was copied as well. And whoever at the high school would then have that student on their caseload, would meet with that student and then talk through the determination of which course would be the right fit for them based on a whole slew of other factors. So like GPA and the level of rigor of the course and the support that the student felt that they needed. So again, adapting that same process, utilizing Google Form, keeping everybody in the loop with this auto emailer that would then be sent out to everybody. And I can't say this enough, that this really helped our students to be able to better place into courses. But the best thing about this is that we now have a Google Sheet that has every student that has used this method to choice into certain courses. So now we have a record and go back and look at grades in Q1, Q2, in the fall semester, and see these students that in schools and counselors that placed into these English and math courses, were they selecting the right courses, or do we have a lot of drops? Do we have a lot of withdrawals? How did the final grades actually affect, I guess, the self-assessment survey for the entry into the course? I'd be remiss if I didn't say, like, Denver Public Schools is often saying, we would love to see prerequisites gone for any course in college. And if students show the aptitude and are willing to try hard and to work hard in these courses, that they should be given that opportunity to succeed in the course. This pilot of the self-assessment is something that we hope will continue, and that we can, we're going to share the data obviously with Michelle and CCA, so that they can take a look on their end as well, see who are the students that placed in using these measures, how well did they do, and then could we potentially use this to remove all prerequisites for any English or math course at the community college level.
And similarly, Pete, I would just add the same thing. It is nice because we were able to create it as a fillable form. The district holds on to this information in the event that we have an audit. And of course, on our end, we are now looking at the data. If we all think about how many meetings we spent talking about multiple measures, and now here's our opportunity to utilize them, all the ones that we've talked about. So in addition to the self-assessment surveys, but also the PSAT scores, I would add, I think our teams are on this call, but Summer, Nicole, any of the gals from DPS, feel free to jump in. I think one of the things that we're seeing with regard to the self-assessment survey is that students are really thinking. They're really, really reflecting on how they place and if it makes sense for them to start with English and or Math 121. And I think that's positive as well. And I think there's a little bit less stress just without the AccuPlacer and what their score is going to be. So thinking about this in terms of equity and similar to what Pete said, so far, I mean, we'll be really excited to see at the end of the semester what the success rates look like.
Last thing.
Just add one. Oh, sorry, Pete. I would just add one thing to that in this overall conversation is we're able to use that English self-assessment survey for other classes besides English. So any class that requires English college readiness as the entry measure, we're able to use the English self-assessment. And if a student would place into English 121, they can also place into other content area college classes using that English survey. So it's been even more beneficial across larger contents than just English and math.
And Michelle, can you just jump forward to the next slide just to show that progression of what these forms kind of look like?
Yep.
So there's the form. Obviously, it's a Google form. It's pretty simple, pretty easy. Those schools that are Google districts, you'll have the link. You can make a copy of this form, and then if you click the next button, there's a bunch of code that is part of the it's Google Apps script. So it ultimately, if you need help in doing this, contact somebody in IT in your own department or your own school now. I'd be happy to help you walk through it. Sometimes it might just be me talking a few things. I know Michelle mentioned helping out other districts, like Cherry Creek reached out, and I set up a meeting with them and talked through just the form and how it worked. And then they had one of their folks on the back end take a look at all of it, and I sat down with her for maybe 20 minutes. She just asked some questions, and they got it up and running. So it's if you have the people in your building that could do that work as well, that's something that I would recommend. And the last thing, Michelle, there, one more click. Is just the email that comes out of that. So you'll see like Michelle was copied on this one. This is from Northeast Early College. There was a student, they wanted to withdraw from 115. Oh shit, the student's name is there. Excuse my language. Can you skip the next? Thank you. So that was a fake student name. That wasn't a real student name. So actually, Michelle, can you go back to that one slide? The last thing we really wanted to talk about, not this one, keep going, the one before. Right here, the last thing we wanted to mention is we joined last November. We had decided around this time that we were going to jump into the dual enroll system that CCA has currently that they were using with APS, so Aurora Public Schools. And we decided on a pilot for just our CCA schools in the spring, and it really worked well for us, because the one thing I heard when I moved into this position about 3 years ago was that paperwork was the biggest source of trouble for schools and the biggest headache for students, and it was preventing students from being able to take courses at times. So that was one thing we really moved to try and find a better solution for an implementation process, and it worked out really well. There were a few bumps in the road that I think since then we had worked out, but in the springtime we had a successful pilot with CCA, and for I think it was 9 or 10 of our schools. that participated. Since then, we decided to purchase our own license and get our own implementation as a school district. So we utilize this for eight or nine of our college partners, where students are completing paperwork. And it really came at a perfect time for registration for fall, because how else were we going to get students to register and turn in paperwork, signed paperwork? They don't have printers. I mean, it's the same issue we talked about before. So dual enroll really helps us in terms of getting parent permission for students to take courses. Students get and this is definitely not an ad for dual enroll, but at the same time, just talking through this shift to this online process, it's something that we're going to continue for the foreseeable future. Students are able to put in their parents' email address and or cell phone, and they're able to send out a text message to the parents or an email stating, hey, this is, and it really keeps parents abreast about what is going on. Tells them what course the student's going to take, a concurrent enrollment, dual enrollment course, tells them what that course is, and then the parent has to provide a digital signature by clicking on a link that's in the text message or the email, and then they can read the agreements, which is our concurrent enrollment paperwork, and then the parent signs off on that paperwork, and it all happens digitally. Schools have the ability to resend text messages or to resend emails. Students have the ability to resend that to parents as well, and it's all managed through an online process. So it is a little bit of a shift for Denver Public Schools and our school staff. However, right now it's really been a saving grace that we've had this during this time, because I can only imagine that our numbers would have significantly dropped. Students would have had less opportunities to take college courses if they had to sign a paper, have their parents sign a paper that they had to print out and then scan back in and send to us before a student could get registered.
And I would add on our side, so Pete has set up this form so that it feeds directly into the data load. So all the information is directly aligned with the information with the different columns on the data load, which makes it incredibly useful for us. So now we're going to talk a little bit about expanding options.
So thinking about being in a pandemic situation, something that we had started in summer of 2019 was to do district-sponsored concurrent enrollment during summer school. So that was not something that we had done in the past. Students did take summer college classes, but they did that on their own. So we had not had a district-sponsored summer concurrent enrollment program. So in the summer of 2019, we did that program with Community College of Denver. And we did this as a pilot with a small number of high schools and a small number of students. And we offered English 121 and Lit 115 that first summer. So we had pre-pandemic, pre-spring 2020 in the fall, started planning what could summer school look like on a larger scale in summer 2020. And then when we all moved remote in March, we had a lot of conversations about, is it even possible that we can continue scaling our summer school program during these pandemic times and do that in the summer? So we decided, yes, we were going to push forward with summer concurrent enrollment. So we did have a hugely successful remote summer school program in summer 2020. This was a huge stressor. I'm not going to lie. Was this going to happen? Could we make it happen? How could we do it? But we did, in the end, offer 8 different concurrent enrollment classes in the summertime. We had 158 students participate. All of the classes were delivered remotely. And we had 22 of our high schools participate. We have 38 high schools in Denver Public Schools. So we did have 22 of our high schools have students who participated in summer school. And we expanded to include Community College of Aurora as well as Community College of Denver for our summer school program. And you can see on the next table that we had an amazing success rate for this concurrent enrollment summer school, given that it was completely remote and that students had just experienced a crazy switch to remote in the spring, unexpected. We were really pleased to see that almost every student got a grade of C or better in our summer remote program. So 148 of the 158 students passed summer school with a grade of C or better. And Michelle actually taught one of our summer school classes for us. She taught Intro to Ethnic Studies. So she's going to chat a little bit too about the experience of remote summer school.
Well, I have to laugh too, because as I'm looking at this slide, so in summer 2019, Tara approached CCA as well, and we were hoping to make summer school work, and we just didn't have the buy-in from the students. So when summer 2020 was coming around, of course, in the midst of the pandemic, every email, every meeting, I was like, this is where we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. Are we really going to try to do this? Are we going to do this? And it's just really remarkable how hugely successful summer school was amidst this pandemic. I think you're right, Tara, it took a lot of work, especially on your end. I speak for you, not for myself, but thinking about how successful that program was for this summer it's really remarkable.
And I see, Michelle, we have a question in the chat about summer school. So we did do only concurrent enrollment students in the summer school with our own teachers and Michelle. So our own teachers who are able to be adjuncted taught the classes for us in the summer. So they were only with high school students. We do have students who do summer school themselves and join the traditional college summer classes, but this was a specific concurrent high school only summer school classes. And Kayla, I saw you put something in the chat. It would be great if you from CCD gave us your perspective on how that summer school program went this year. If you want to talk for a second, no pressure.
Oh yeah, no pressure. I am a big fan of the summer school program. For us, one of the headaches we had in gearing it up and getting buy-in is that it is a very truncated semester. It's 5 weeks. That has a lot to do with the requirements of DPS and the security and everything that gets put into that. But these are highly motivated students. Every week I received a newsletter that Tara did from all the instructors doing shout outs. I've just never seen such an energized group. And that really was wonderful during the pandemic to see people engaged with students and enjoying it so much. But it's a very successful program. I strongly recommend it. And when we're post-pandemic, I would like to see us grow it with some kind of more intentionality around excitement around being a college student and pride building. So those are my thoughts.
I saw a question in the chat too around the costs of summer school. So Denver Public Schools has an existing summer credit recovery program in which our buildings are already open and staffed with summer principals, summer food service, summer facilities, and summer security. So we have joined forces in Denver Public Schools with our regional existing summer school program for them to give us the space to run the summer school concurrent enrollment classes. So our buildings are open and staffed and running in the summertime for credit recovery. And we wanted to build out for DPS credit acceleration in the summertime as well as just credit recovery. So we partnered with that existing program to do acceleration through concurrent enrollment. So the first summer we did it in person on one of our high school campuses at North High School. And that was the plan, of course, for summer 2020 to host it at several different high schools in partnership with our credit recovery programs, but all of that went remote for spring 2020, both programs. So we were able to continue and still partner with our credit recovery summer school to get this done in the summertime.
And I recognize, I just saw Kim's chat that we just have a few more minutes. And so I'll keep this really brief because we definitely want to allow time for more questions. But to kind of summarize what both Tara and Kayla said, I mean, it was a huge success. I was really fortunate to have the opportunity to teach ethnic studies in the summer with DPS. And with that, not only did I enjoy the students so much, but really that other piece too of understanding all the different pieces that DPS is tying into this. So like Kayla mentioned, those instructor shout outs every week to hear what's happening in the classroom. The instructor orientation initially that Tara put together with all the summer school instructors to kind of talk about the expectation, what things look like, how to complete things, all that kind of stuff. And the students, I mean, like I said, they committed their summer in this pandemic to do this, and they were really invested. They were really, really invested, which was great. The process for registration, it gave us a somewhat of a mini model to think about what we could do for fall in this pandemic in the summertime with a smaller amount of students.
Something else that we've been working on as we think about expanding our options during pandemic times and beyond and before, because this is something we had also started before the pandemic started, was, and this is probably true of lots of K-12 districts, getting our own adjuncts in every single content area that we might want a student to take a class is very challenging for us. And so we had started working with our college partners on what does it look like to do a hybrid design where we have one of our teachers partnered with a college instructor to deliver the content to our students. And so we started small with 2 classes in the fall of 2019. And then as we're moving into spring semester of this year, we've expanded that to include 12 course options across a variety of our college partners. So this is just another way that we're trying to expand opportunities for our students, and that proved to be pretty timely given that we started in fall of 2019 and now have been remote since March, where everything is online.
So is there a question in the chat already? Asking increased early graduation for 12th grade students by allowing them to receive graduation requirements before fall semester begins.
We haven't seen that happen yet via summer school. Not that it couldn't happen as we move forward and continue growing the program, but we have not seen that happen yet.
And just to reference a webinar that Andy Tucker and CDE, and I think Michelle had put on not too long ago, in clarifying concurrent enrollment and dual enrollment, they stated in that if students do complete graduation requirements prior to like during their 12th grade year or prior to 12th grade year, that they still could continue and be a student within the course, or I mean within the school, and it was up to the school district in order to determine whether those students need to graduate or not, or could they continue taking concurrent enrollment courses. Now, please don't take what I just said as solid facts. Do reference that with Andy and the CD folks if you do have questions around it. Another question, students being really invested over summer, how do you determine who would work? What do you attribute to this level of commitment? Sarah?
So for summer school, we target our high school counselors. We have 38 high schools in DPS, and so we send out all the information to our counselors in the high schools, and then they target their students that they think would be good for this program. We have some high schools who targeted every student and had huge enrollment in summer school, and some are more targeted. We did do some direct flyers out to students, asking them to contact their counselors if they were interested. We do most of that recruitment work through our high schools and through our high school counselors, as they know the students and the student situations far better than we do from central office. So we do that through our school counselors.
Next question is the hybrid format, the college instructors, instructor of record, but the high school instructor, are they actually teaching the curriculum? Can you expand? I would say that we have a variety. Tara, do you want to go into the details?
So that varies by college partner. So with each college partner, we work out the exact details of how that type of class would work. And so it's not exactly the same for every college partner. In some of the scenarios, our teachers are able to teach the content and the instructors of record do the grading. looks very different depending on the college partner. I'm actually going to kick it over to Michelle. She teaches one of these for us. Again, ethnic studies that she's been teaching this fall for us in this hybrid fashion. So you can hear about how it goes with CCA.
Thanks, Tara. And yeah, I mean, this hybrid model, it was an interesting one to explore, and it's working. And I'm excited to say, when I remove myself from the equation, we've had an influx of requests for ethnic studies, which is huge in its own self. But I think we've had 5 requests this spring. And really what this model looks like is, so the instructor, in this case, me, would be the instructor of record. So of course I create all the content, the syllabus. I'm in the class a couple days a week, and then the DPS instructor. And usually why this model happens, or why this model is happening right now, is simply getting the instructor vetted is not possible. So the instructors that I've worked with are really, really great. They have, I mean, they're experts in the content area, but they don't have that 18 credit hours specific to the subject. And so we work, I mean, I work really closely with the 2 instructors. Like I said, I put together all the curriculum, the content, and then on the days that I'm not there, they deliver that content, work with the students to help them to be successful.
And John, we're in the PowerPoint, there's a link. It says 12 course options on the slide 18. That when you click on it, it goes through, like, at each college, what are responsibilities of the adjunct instructor and what are responsibilities of the high school teacher in the course. That'll give you a lot more detail.
And I'm looking, Pete, at the stipend for instructors for the summertime. So we actually in DPS have negotiated rates for all types of activities for our teachers with the union. So this past summer, the teachers who taught these classes got paid $39.26 an hour to teach the summer school classes. It worked out to be just under $5,000 for each teacher that we had teaching summer school, given the number of hours. And yes, we did pay for Michelle for a visiting instructor.
Oh, that felt really weird. That felt really weird.
So I'm going to interrupt here because we've got just 1 minute left. I want to thank y'all for your presentation. I'm looking forward to getting the deck of slides. And I am sure any of these folks would be happy to answer any of your questions if you want to email them. Thank y'all very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Just
you.
share the deck in the chat if anybody wants access. I know everyone's jumping off, but.
Can you give us access to that document?
No way.
Thank you.
One